If you've ever played hide and seek in the dark, you know the rules. You're supposed to be scared, but only by your friends. That night we weren't alone. Welcome to Scary Stories Files. I was 15 when it happened. It was late September, one of those nights where summer finally lets go and the cold starts creeping in through the windows. My parents went out to dinner with friends and told me they'd be home late. That meant I had the house to myself. So I invited my best friend from across the street over. We'd done it 100 times. Hang out, play games, watch something dumb, eat whatever we could find. That night we ran out of things to do fast. We were restless, bored. And when you're bored as a teenager, you start doing stupid things just to feel something. He suggested hide and seek. I laughed at first, like, really? But then we looked at each other and realized the same thing. The house was empty, the lights were low, and it could actually be creepy. So we made it a night version. Most lights off. Only the kitchen light on, just enough to see shapes and shadows. We made rules. No outside, no attic, no crawl space. Basement was allowed. Closets were allowed. Under furniture, fair game. He wanted to hide first. I stood in the living room, covered my eyes, and started counting to 50. I heard him running, fast footsteps, a door creak, then quiet. When I hit 50, I called out that I was coming. At first, it was fun. I checked the kitchen, the coat closet, the bathroom, the hallway. Then upstairs, where the floor always creaked like it was complaining. I checked my parents' bedroom, under the bed, behind the dresser. Nothing. My room, messy but not enough to hide a full person. Closet, empty. Under the desk, empty. That left the guest room at the end of the hall. The door was cracked open. I pushed it slowly, expecting him to jump out, but the room was still. Too still. I checked under the bed, nothing. Closet, empty. That's when I started thinking, okay, he's downstairs. I went back down, opened the basement door, and called his name. No answer. I went down anyway, checking behind the laundry machines and the storage area under the stairs. That's when I found him, curled up behind stacked boxes like he'd been built for hiding. He popped up laughing like he'd been holding that laugh in for a minute. We joked about how long it took me. Then we switched. Now he counted. I ran upstairs, and I decided to hide in the guest room, under the bed. It had a bed skirt that hung low enough to hide my legs, and the space underneath was just big enough to squeeze into. I slid under, pulled the skirt down, and stayed perfectly still. At first, I heard him downstairs counting out loud. Then he came up the stairs, slow and heavy, like he wanted to scare me on purpose. I heard doors open. Bathroom. My parents' room. My room. Then his footsteps came down the hall. They stopped in the guest room. I could hear him breathing. Not loud, just enough that I could tell he was close. His shoes shuffled near the bed. And then silence. A long silence. I was sure he'd found me. I was sure any second now he'd yank up the bed skirt and laugh. But instead he walked away. I waited, 1 minute, 2, 3, no found you. No laughter, no footsteps, just quiet. Finally, I crawled out from under the bed. I went downstairs, expecting to find him on the couch. He wasn't there. I called out that the game was over. Then I heard his voice from the basement. He yelled something like, "I'm down here." I walked to the basement door and called down, "Okay, I'm out. I was under the guest bed." And he yelled back, "No, you weren't. Where are you really hiding?" My stomach tightened. Because that wasn't him joking. That was him genuinely confused. A second later, he came up the stairs and stepped into the kitchen light. His face looked wrong, like he'd missed a step in reality. He said, "How did you get up here so fast?" I told him, "I crawled out. I was under the bed." He shook his head slowly. He said, "I checked that room. I heard movement in there." I laughed it off at first, like, okay, maybe he didn't check well. But he insisted. He said he heard breathing. Not his breathing, someone else's. I told him he was messing with me. He swore he wasn't. We tried to shrug it off and play another round, but the mood had changed. Every creak felt like it had meaning. Every shadow felt like it had weight. At one point, while I was counting, I heard a soft thud upstairs. Not loud, just heavy enough to notice. When I searched, nothing was out of place. We went back to the living room and turned on the TV just to have noise, just to have something normal. And that's when we both froze. A loud bump from upstairs, like something heavy hit the floor. We stared at each other. I reminded him my parents were still out. The house went quiet again. Then floorboards, slow creaks, not random settling, footsteps, walking across the upstairs hallway. My friend whispered, "That's not funny." And I didn't answer because I hadn't made a sound. We sat there listening and the footsteps stopped. I grabbed the fireplace poker beside the couch. Not because I thought it made me a hero, but because holding something felt better than holding nothing. We crept up the stairs. Every step groaned. My heart hammered so hard I thought it would give us away. At the top, the guest room door was closed. I knew I left it cracked. We stood there staring at the knob. And then we heard something behind the door, a dragging sound, like fabric sliding across carpet. My friend whispered, "We should leave." Now, but curiosity is dangerous. Fear makes you want answers. I raised the poker and opened the door fast. The room was dark. The shapes were normal. Bed, dresser, closet door half open. No one. I stepped forward and yanked the closet door open. Coats, boxes, nothing human. We both let out shaky laughs like we'd just survived a haunted house. And that's when we heard it again, not upstairs, downstairs, the front door, opening and closing. We stopped breathing. We stared at each other like we just realized the same truth at the same time. Someone had been in the house, and now they were moving. We ran down the hall into my room and shut the door quietly. Lights off, poker in my hands, we listened. Faint footsteps on the first floor. Slow, controlled, not panicked, not rushed. like whoever it was wasn't afraid. My phone was downstairs. I couldn't call anyone. We whispered about the window, but it was too small. The only way out was past the stairs. The footsteps moved closer. Then we heard the basement door open. A pause. Then steps going down one by one. And for the first time all night, I felt relief because whoever it was had moved away from us. We didn't waste it. We ran. Downstairs, through the kitchen, out the back door into the cold night air. We sprinted across the street to my friend's house and pounded on the door. His parents opened it, confused, and we spilled everything out. They called the police. Officers arrived and searched my house, top to bottom, closets, basement, garage. They found nothing. No forced entry, no broken windows, no obvious hiding spots. They told us it was probably our imagination. The house settling, teenagers scaring themselves with a game. But we knew what we heard. We knew the door opened. We knew the footsteps. And we knew one more thing. Somebody had been close enough to hear us whispering. After that night, I couldn't sleep right. Every creak felt like a warning. Every dark hallway felt like a trap. And that was the last time I played hide and seek inside a house. But it wasn't the last time hide and seek turned into something worse. Because the next year, it happened again. Just not inside a house. This time it was outside, behind the neighborhood, where the yards ended and the woods began. In my neighborhood, the street backed up against a long stretch of trees. From the back fence, it was all darkness, miles of forest. Kids on the street used to play out there all the time. Summer nights, flashlights, laughing, running into the trees like we owned the place. Hide and seek in the woods feels different. The darkness doesn't just hide you, it swallows you. One humid August night, we decided to play again. There were 5 of us, me and a few friends from the street, plus one younger kid tagging along. The rules were simple. Hide anywhere in the yards or the woods, but stay close enough to hear when the round ended. One friend volunteered to be the seeker. We scattered. I ran into the woods and crouched behind a fallen log. The air smelled like dirt and leaves. Bugs buzzed around my ears, and every sound felt louder than it should. The seeker counted from the yard. When he finished, the world went quiet. That's when I heard it, footsteps in the leaves. Slow, heavy, too steady. I assumed it was the seeker. I stayed still, holding my breath. The footsteps stopped nearby, and whoever it was just stood there. No calling out, no laughing, no running, just standing. My skin prickled. I wanted to peek, but something told me not to. After a long moment, the footsteps moved again. But instead of circling like a kid searching, they went deeper into the woods. I waited until I couldn't hear them anymore. Then I crawled out and headed back toward the yard. The seeker called that the round was over. Everyone started coming out laughing. I told them someone walked near me. The seeker looked confused. He said, "I never went that far into the woods." I felt my stomach twist in the exact same way it had the night in my house. Because if it wasn't him, then who was it? We kept playing, but the woods didn't feel fun anymore. Every time I hid, I heard branches snap, leaves crunch, movement that didn't match the game. On the last round, I stayed close to the edge of the trees, crouched in tall grass. I could see porch lights in the distance. It made me feel safer. Then I heard something that made my blood go cold. Whispering, soft, close. Not words I could understand, just the sound of a voice trying not to be heard. I stayed frozen. Footsteps moved past me, into the trees. The seeker called the round over and everyone came out. We tried to laugh it off, tried to act like it was nothing. Then the youngest kid, who had been quiet all night, asked a question that ended the game instantly. He said, "Did you guys see the man?" We all looked at him. He said while he was hiding, he saw a tall man standing in the woods, not moving, just watching. That was it. No more rounds, no more jokes. We went home. And even now, years later, whenever I hear leaves crunch in the dark, I think about that question. Did you see the man? Because when you hide in the dark, you don't get to choose who else is hiding with you. If this story made your stomach drop, comment one word: hide. And if you want more real-life horror stories like this, please like, share, comment, and subscribe to Scary Stories Files. Because the scariest part of hide and seek is realizing someone else is playing too.